All right, everybody, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're gonna be looking into a story that's been making some headlines lately. The legal situation surrounding Sean Diddy Combs.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
This is it's pretty wild, and it's got a lot of people talking for sure.
It does. And it's not just your typical celebrity gossip rag kind of story either. This one really has you thinking about
Oh yeah.
definitely power dynamics in the music industry and like how we hold people accountable these days. It's a lot.
Well, especially with someone like Diddy who's had such a long career and is so influential.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So our main source for this deep dive is an episode from a podcast called Fluent English Vibes. The episode is titled Celebrity Legal Drama, The Diddy Case, and let me tell you, it is packed
Oh,
with juicy details.
that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, so get ready to unpack some complex issues and
Yeah.
maybe even learn some legal jargon along the way.
Love it. I love learning some legal jargon.
Me too.
All right, let's do it.
So before we get into the allegations themselves, let's take a step back. Who is Sean Diddy Combs, really? I mean,
Right.
most people know him as like a rapper, a musician, but
Yeah.
he's done way more than that.
Oh yeah. I mean, the guy's built a whole empire for himself. He's got his fingers in so many different pies. It's kind of amazing when you think about it.
It really is. So we're talking fashion, right?
Right.
Liquor brands,
Yeah.
reality TV.
Mm-hmm. The list goes on.
Yeah, this guy's a straight up mogul.
Exactly. And that's actually one of the things that makes this whole case so fascinating, I think, because his influence just stretches across so many areas.
Yeah.
The potential fallout here is huge.
It is. Okay, so let's get into it. What exactly are these allegations against Diddy?
All right, so there are two main accusations that have been leveled at him.
Okay.
One is sex trafficking and the other is racketeering.
Whoa, those are some
Yeah.
pretty serious charges.
Yeah, those are some heavy-hitting legal terms.
Yeah.
So let's break them down a little bit, make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so sex trafficking, in the simplest terms, involves forcing or manipulating someone into sexual activity for profit.
Okay.
So obviously that's an extremely serious offense.
Yeah,
Now, racketeering, that one's a little bit trickier.
it is. What does that even mean?
Think of it like this. Racketeering is basically when you have a pattern of illegal activities happening within a business.
Okay.
So it could be anything from bribery and fraud to extortion or even violence.
Got it.
And it's often associated with organized crime.
So we're not talking about like a parking ticket here.
No. This is the big leagues.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
serious legal trouble.
For sure.
But these aren't just like random claims from internet trolls or something.
Right.
There are actual lawsuits involved.
That's right.
Mm.
Multiple women have come forward with these allegations against Diddy. And some of these accusations actually go back years, which, suggests a potential pattern of behavior here.
Oh, wow.
Now, it's super important to remember
Yeah.
that at this point, these are just allegations. Diddy and his legal team have very strongly denied all of the charges,
Oh, okay.
claiming that they are false
Yeah.
and basically intended to damage his reputation.
So it's kind of a he said, she said situation at this point?
In a way, yes. But even though nothing's been proven in court, yet this whole thing is already causing some serious damage to Diddy's public image.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, brands are already distancing themselves from him and the media's having a field day. It's all anyone's talking about.
Right. And that brings up this whole other issue of the court of public opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you wonder how much power public perception actually holds in these situations.
It really does. I mean, is it even possible for someone to be considered innocent until proven guilty anymore?
Well, that's the question,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
We're living in this age of social media where information spreads like wildfire, sometimes misinformation too,
Right.
and often public opinion forms before all the facts are even out there.
Exactly. You look at what happened with some other high-profile cases. Once accusations hit the headlines,
Yeah.
it's like the court of public opinion delivers a verdict way faster than any legal system ever could.
Oh, yeah. It's almost instantaneous.
Yeah. And it's kind of scary how quickly things can spiral out of control.
Yeah. It can be really intense.
Like, what happened to that whole innocent until proven guilty thing?
Right. It seems like that principle has been thrown out the window.
Yeah, does it even apply anymore?
Well, it's tricky because on one hand, you have this fundamental legal principle of due process,
Right.
which means that everyone has the right to a fair trial and should be presumed innocent until proven guilty.
Of course.
But then you have the court of public opinion, which doesn't always play by those rules.
No, it doesn't.
And the impact of that can be devastating regardless of what happens in the actual legal proceedings.
Yeah, like even if someone is eventually found innocent, can they ever really recover from the damage that's been done to their reputation?
That's a tough one.
It is.
Yeah, it's a really tough question.
It's almost like this whole situation throws a wrench into,
Yeah.
how our legal system is supposed to work.
Yeah. So what happens next? What does the legal process actually look like for a case as complex as this one?
Okay, so first things first, we got to remember that Diddy's presumed innocent until proven guilty. That's like the foundation of our whole legal system.
Right.
But let's say, hypothetically, these accusations lead to formal charges.
Mm.
We're looking at a very, very long and complicated legal battle ahead. Like, think investigations, court hearings, mountains of evidence. It's a whole intricate process.
Yeah. And these kinds of cases, they don't exactly wrap up overnight, do they?
No, not at all. I mean, these legal
Exactly.
battles can drag on for months, even years, depending on,
Yeah.
complexity of the charges and the evidence and all that stuff. Remember, the justice system is designed to be thorough, and that takes time.
So while all of this is unfolding,
Yeah.
what are the potential outcomes we could be looking at? What's the range of possibilities here?
Well, the potential consequences are pretty broad.
Okay.
On one end of the spectrum, you've got financial penalties,
Right.
which could be anything from like hefty fines to settlements.
But if he's convicted of the more serious charges, like the sex trafficking and racketeering, then we could be talking about prison time.
Wow.
Yeah, it really all hinges on the specifics of the charges and the strength of the evidence that's brought against him.
So it's still really up in the air at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a lot to take in, and it makes you wonder about the bigger picture, right? Like, what does this whole situation tell us about the power dynamics in the entertainment industry?
That's a really important point. I mean, it's no secret that the entertainment world is built on these hierarchies, right?
Yeah.
And with those hierarchies, you have power imbalances, often very significant ones.
Right.
You've got these individuals with immense wealth and influence. And that can create an environment where exploitation and abuse can happen, especially if those in power choose to take advantage of that dynamic.
And that makes me think about the #MeToo movement and how it's really impacted how we view these kinds of accusations.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The #MeToo movement has been a complete game changer.
It-
It's empowered so many people, especially women, to come forward and speak up about their experiences and demand accountability from those in positions of power. And what's really important to know is that this movement has gone way beyond Hollywood and the entertainment industry. It sparked a much broader conversation about power, consent, and accountability in every aspect of our society.
Yeah, for sure. So even if Diddy is eventually found innocent in a court of law, has the damage already been done? I mean, how do you repair a reputation that's been so publicly scrutinized? Like, is that even possible, especially in today's digital age?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's almost like this double-edged sword.
Right.
The court of public opinion can be so swift and unforgiving even if the legal system ultimately clears someone's name. Repairing a tarnished reputation in the age of social media, it's a massive challenge.
Is it even possible? I mean, once something's out there on the internet, isn't it kind of just there forever?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's definitely an uphill battle, and there's no magic formula for fixing it. It often involves a combination of strategies, like you see public apologies,
Yeah.
attempts to engage in some kind of open dialogue, maybe even philanthropic efforts to show that you're committed to positive change.
Yeah.
But even with all that, there's no guarantee of full redemption.
Right.
It's tough.
And let's be real, even if someone is completely innocent, the mere accusation can have like lasting effects on their life. People might always have that doubt in the back of their minds.
Oh, for sure.
It's a tough situation all around.
Yeah, it really is. And, it raises some interesting questions about the whole burden of proof thing.
What do you mean?
Well, in a court of law, the burden of proof is on the prosecution, right?
Right. They have to prove that the person's guilty.
Exactly. They have to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. But in the court of public opinion, that burden often shifts.
How so?
It becomes the responsibility of the accused to prove their innocence to the public.
Yeah.
And that's a totally different and often much harder standard to meet.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It makes you think about how we consume information these days, especially with social media. Like, we're constantly bombarded with headlines and opinions and hot takes, and
Oh, yeah.
it's hard to know what to believe sometimes.
It really is. We're living in this age of information overload.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of instant reactions and judgments. It's like everyone wants to have an opinion on everything immediately.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to be critical thinkers.
Yeah.
You got to pause, take a step back, consider different perspectives, and really evaluate the information that we're taking in.
It's almost like we need to develop a new set of skills for navigating this digital world.
I think we do. I think that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, it really is. It feels like we're kind of in this like weird in-between zone where someone's entire reputation can be destroyed overnight.
Yeah.
And it's all based on accusations that might not even be true.
Right. And that's what's so scary about it. I mean, it really makes you question the whole idea of due process and presumption of innocence.
Yeah.
Those are supposed to be like the cornerstones of our legal system.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
in the court of public opinion, it's like those principles just get totally lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, it's like we need to find that balance between holding people accountable for their actions, but also making sure that everyone gets a fair shake.
Absolutely.
How do we even navigate that, especially in a world where social media can just amplify everything so quickly?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, how do we make sure that victims feel safe and empowered to come forward with their stories while also protecting the rights of the accused? It's such a complex issue.
It really is. And I think this deep dive into the Diddy case has really highlighted just how complicated it all is.
Oh, for sure.
It's not just black and white.
Yeah.
There's so many shades of gray.
Exactly. And it's a conversation that goes way beyond just this one specific case. I mean, it raises all these broader questions about how we handle accusations in general, how we consume information, how we form judgments, especially in a world where the lines between public and private life are becoming more and more blurred.
So what can we even do as individuals? Like, how do we stay informed and be critical thinkers and just engage in these conversations responsibly, especially when it feels like everything's changing so fast?
I think a good starting point is recognizing that we all have biases, right? We all come to these stories with our own experiences and perspectives, and it's important to be aware of that. From there, it's about actively seeking out diverse perspectives, questioning our assumptions, and being willing to engage in respectful dialogue, even when it's uncomfortable.
And when it comes to social media specifically, how do we navigate that whole landscape without getting swept up in all this sensationalism and instant judgments?
That's a tough one. Being mindful of the information that you're consuming is a big part of it. Thinking about the sources that you're trusting, fact-checking information whenever possible.
Yeah.
And being wary of those super sensationalized headlines or stories that are clearly designed to just provoke a reaction.
Yeah.
Remember, social media often presents a very skewed version of reality.
It's like we need to train ourselves to take a step back and breathe before we jump to conclusions.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the heat of the moment, but we got to remember that there are real people involved in these situations.
Oh, absolutely. And there are real consequences.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think it all comes down to empathy. Trying to understand different perspectives, even if we don't agree with them. Remembering that these situations are complex and there are often multiple sides to every story.
Well said. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the end of this deep dive into the legal drama surrounding Sean Diddy Combs. We've covered a lot of ground today, but this story is far from over. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on any new developments and seeing how things unfold both in the legal system and in the court of public opinion.
It'll be interesting to see what happens for sure.
It will. So until next time, everyone, keep those critical thinking skills sharp, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.
See it.